Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Fit Talk tonight. Today we have Kathy from the Alzheimer Society. She's going to talk about Mind Your Matter, brain health, and you. We'll get going in a minute or so. So I'll say my usual spiel. If you want to ask a question during the presentation or just at the end, it's about a half an hour, you can use the chat box on the bottom of your screen. Again, just type in your question there and then we'll answer them at the end. I'm going to give it another minute or so and then I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. I know Kathy for a few years. She runs the program that we were running at the wellness called Minds in Motion, and maybe she'll talk a little bit about that. I'm not sure. I won't steal your thunder there, Kathy. But without further ado, we will be respectful of everybody's time in tonight. No Jets game, so we're good there. We've got a couple more days. So Kathy, I will pass it over to you. And I'm going to head up where my hand's a little better so I don't. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, Rhea. It's great to be here. I can't really see all of your faces, and that's okay. So hopefully you guys can see me and hear me. So yeah, my name is Kathy and I am from the Alzheimer Society. I've been there for about 3 years. I am the, I always forget my title, but I am the Community Partnerships Manager at the Alzheimer Society. I have a 30-year background in fitness and recreation, and with a specialty in seniors programming. And when I came to the Alzheimer Society, I got to know the Alzheimer's Society through a program that I do manage, Minds in Motion, which we have been offering there at the Reh-Fit until, of course, November when we all got shut down. So that's a program that is for people with early to moderate signs of dementia, and along with a care partner. So that's been around for a long time. It's a very well liked program. So that's what I do. And in my spare time, I try to keep active with my dog and walks and trying to take advantage of this beautiful winter weather we're having right now that I hope everybody is enjoying. So we'll get into it tonight. We're talking about Mind Your Matter. So it's brain health. And really, you're going to learn tonight what what dementia is, first of all. So in order to understand the risk factors and how to prevent it, we want to be able to know what it is. So we're going to learn a bit about dementia, some stats on that, and then we'll get into the risk factors, and then we'll get into what we can do about it and how what we can change and what we can't change. All right. So first, let's look at some stats. So it is an overwhelming amount of Manitobans and Canadians that have dementia. 56% of Manitobans are directly impacted, whether they have a family member, a close friend, or a distant relative that has dementia. And 2/3 of the people with dementia live in the community. So that's something that people forget about, because a lot of people think of dementia, they think of like older seniors, and then they think of people in PCHs, like that they're in the homes and they are the ones there with dementia. And that's not entirely true. You can actually live well with dementia, but you want to be able to, there's some certain things to help you live well. 2/3 of that, like I say, are in the community. So you wouldn't really know. Even for those of you attending the Reh-Fit, you could have been working alongside somebody who has dementia. And 1/4 of them live alone, and live alone well, and for a certain period of time. So those are those stats. Now, dementia, what is dementia? Dementia is actually an umbrella term that speaks to all different types of dementia. So there's actually over 100 types of dementia that affect the brain, all in different ways. 64% of dementias are Alzheimer's. So a lot of people, they ask, well, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Well, dementia is the term, and then under that is the types of dementia. So we have Alzheimer's there. Lewy body dementia can have some tremors, can have some paranoias and some hallucinations. Vascular dementia is like some the vascular into the brain, the blood flow. can be affected. And frontal temporal is the front and the sides of your brain. So kind of your logical thinking and your awareness skills, those kinds of things can be affected. But they all affect everybody in a different way. And there's this phrase that says, if you know one person with dementia, you know one person with dementia, because everybody is different. It affects their personality different, affects them at different types, different ways in the brain, and affects the personality different as well. But all dementias typically have loss of memory and judgment and reasoning, changes in mood and behavior. So if the person was super happy-go-lucky person and they start to change in their behavior and they change, get a little bit different and more aggressive and things like that, along with some memory loss and some judgment and some reasoning. And it affects the brain functioning. It interferes with your activities of daily life. So walking, dressing, functioning at home, functioning at work. There could be a day when you go to if you're at work and you go to the photocopier and you look at it and go, I don't even know, I usually know how to do this, and I don't know how to do this anymore. And it's not just a one-off, it's actually continual. Another example would be, we all forget things. We all forget where our keys are or can't find them, or you go down the stairs to get a loaf of bread from the freezer and you get down there and you go, I have no idea why I'm here. I forgot what I was doing. But eventually do remember, and then, that's right, I need to get some bread. And you go to the freezer and you go upstairs. But in case in dementia, you could be going down the stairs to get a loaf of bread, going down there and go, hey, I'm going to play this game over here, or I'm going to watch TV down here, completely forgetting why you came down there. And maybe you were cooking something in the kitchen and now you've left that, and now, something's boiling over or something, and you just cannot recall that you came down there for bread. Things like maybe you're forgetting to do any of those activities, maybe a simple recipe you can't really follow anymore, getting confused with directions, those kinds of things. Also making, calling a dog a cat or a cat a dog or things like that. You're getting things mixed up, words mixed up, names mixed up, that kind of thing on a continual basis. So it's a progressive, debilitating disease. What happens is the cells around the cells in the brain, they get clogged up, and so there's tangles and plaques that build up in the brain that stop messages from flowing from one to the other. So the message to move your leg, to speak, to react, doesn't get sent because it's getting blocked. And when it gets blocked, then it doesn't do its job. It ends up dying off, and then the brain is all those cells are getting in the way of the other healthy cells, and the brain eventually just dies off cell by cell. There's an example of a brain on the right-hand side. I think it would be right for you as well. And it is a brain that's shrunk. So that's what happens is the brain cells shrink, but the healthy brain is on the right. And that's what we're aiming to keep. So that's the difference in the brains. The changes that affect, like I said, cognitive abilities. So we'll just touch on this. So short-term memory loss, disoriented in time, places and persons, like I said, impaired reasoning and poor judgment can happen. With communication, it can be that the person has a difficult time trying to express what their needs are or what they're trying to say, and that can be lead to frustration. They can't find their meaning. They can't find what they're trying to say. Abilities to do tasks are debilitating. Maybe you're doing things in the wrong order, those kinds of things. And emotions, behaviors is things can be puzzling, hallucinations later on, and delusions and paranoia, but that's usually later in stages. And the physical abilities are some weight loss later in stages, oral health, but one of the beginning stages is proprioception. So what is that? That is where I am in space. So if I might lose my balance because I don't really know how to articulate up the stairs or down the stairs. I might have not good depth perception. Don't quite know where that step is and things like that. So it also affects the vision. So with our peripheral vision, the vision that we see on the sides, that kind of narrows down. And so now I can only see kind of in front of me, and I can't see below or to the sides. So that can affect where my body is in space, or where I know where I am in space. So if you know of someone or yourself, and you think that you suspect you might have some of these changes that have been going on, the best thing to do is to go to the doctor and or have a conversation and talk to your doctor about it, because an early diagnosis is much better than a later one. There's so many things that we can do to keep dementia at bay, and we'll get into that. So we know what dementia is. Let's see what we've got going on here. What are the strategies that we can do to reduce the risk? So like anything else, like we always hear all the time, we need to eat healthy, we need to socialize, we need to have our brain stimulated, and we need to keep our body active. And so we're just going to dive down deeper into those things. We all know that those are the things we're supposed to do, but how do you make those things stick? And what difference does that make to the brain? So in dementia, it's been estimated that up to half of the cases of Alzheimer's diseases worldwide may be the result of 7 modifiable risk factors. So the left-hand side of your screen, those are modifiable risk factors, things that we can do something about. So as we age, there's things that happen. We can get type 2 diabetes, hypertension. We can be a little less active, those kinds of things, whether we smoked, hearing loss. We'll look back at those again, but we want to look at, so those are modifiable. Those are things that we can change. So that's the good news. The things that we can't change is our age. So the highest risk factor for dementia is age. So 65 and over is when our risk factor increases. And also family history. So with someone who is close in your family, like your parents, your siblings, that kind of thing. Not like a third cousin or anything. And then the gene. It would be whether you have the gene, whether the gene has been passed on to you or not. But we're going to be looking at the modifiable and what we can do about it. Okay, so we're going to look at those individually. So we're wanting to challenge ourselves. We're wanting to be socially active and make healthy food choices, and be physically active and reduce stress, protect our head, and choose wisely. But with that being said, I want to go back to this screen here. We're going to chat a little bit about the modifiable changes and or risk factors. And the first one there is education. So with the education, the less time in education, the more vulnerable to cognition decline because of the cognitive reserve, less cognitive reserve. So the more we have in our brain, then the longer it takes for it to kind of debilitate from dementia. Hearing loss. So if we have hearing loss over time can be really stressing to the brain to constantly try to figure out what's being heard and understand it. So with hearing, it can challenge the brain and accelerate the atrophy in the brain. Midlife diabetes and hypertension and obesity, the worst one there that can be more connected with dementia is hypertension. So that one we want to be able to control. We want to be able to know our numbers and work towards the lowering that. Some studies are linked to depression, but if people with depression, there's some links to dementia as well. But physical inactivity is a big one. If we're not moving our bodies and we're not pushing our blood around and we're not being able to get rid of those toxins throughout our entire body and our brain, that's going to be a risk factor. Smoking, of course, excessive alcohol and drug use as well. that we all know of, social isolation. Now, social isolation has become a thing lately with our wonderful COVID situation that we're in. And so that's something that you really want to be aware of. If somebody you know is got some social isolation, encourage them to do things like this, and maybe teach them how to get on this Zoom platform for any type of connection. I'll tell you that in part of my job in managing dementia-friendly communities or dementia-friendly programmings, we partner with the Manitoba Museum, the Assiniboine Zoo, the Winnipeg Art Gallery, and offer in-person programming, but now offering virtual programming. So it's really great to check out those places for something to do and to see what they have offered. And of course, now with all the grants, a lot of the activities are free. And so keeping active and engaged are the things that we want to do with our brain. So let's move on to challenge yourself. So I don't know how many people have done that or want to do that at 100. I've never done it. I don't really want to do it. But in order for that beautiful lady at 100 to celebrate her birthday, would have had to have been in pretty darn good shape to be able to skydive at the age of 100. So she didn't just get off her wheelchair and do that. Oops. So with that, you need to challenge yourself. Now, challenging your brain and your body is something that we want to do. So both ways. And I want to talk about this for a bit. It doesn't mean you have to go off and go skydiving, but maybe it means something that, you know what, you drive a different way to work, or you, wherever it is that you go, drive a different way. Stay engaged with what you're doing. Don't go on automatic pilot all the time. Do something with your non-dominant hand, whether it's writing or throwing something or whatever. It makes you really think about something a little bit different. So you're just taking something that you've done and you're making new pathways. That's exactly what's happening. So when we learn something new, we actually make new pathways in our brain. And that's why we want to keep our brain engaged. So if you're adding that in with something physical, that's fantastic. Yeah, so that one's that. Socially active. I will tell you that being socially active is one of the best ways to stimulate and engage your brain. And having those conversations also increases our endorphins. I guess it wouldn't if we weren't having a good conversation, but the conversations and connecting with people's energies and just having a good time. This one, again, challenging in the COVID shutdown, because how are we doing that? It's very difficult to do that. So you will find that connecting with friends and family through Zoom or whatever kind of platform you have like this is beneficial, and it can keep you stimulated for time after the actual event. So trying to do this, and it's better to do it if you can even see a face. So you're getting, because your brain is connecting to that person's physical being as well. Healthy foods. So we need to be eating healthy. We all know this, but the food change, it's not necessarily a diet, but the Mediterranean diet is the one that's been recommended in one of the most healthiest ways to eat, because of the good fats used, like olive oils and things like that. Lots of fruits and vegetables, less on milk products, and lower on meat. Increasing the antioxidants, because as we get older, we get these free radical cells that run around and do all these crazy destroyable things to our body, and antioxidants help to contain those and kind of tame those down. So we know that we're trying to eat healthier. Staying physically active. Well, if you guys are members of the Reh-Fit, you're going to be doing that through their Zoom outlets when they open the doors again. And hopefully you've maintained something during the time off, and the weather's been beautiful for walking and being outside. I will stick here for a bit because people need to realize that it's not as big as it's not like you have to work out and do boot camps. It's 150 minutes per week. and it can be broken up. So it can be 10-minute intervals during the day. So you can go for a 10-minute walk with your dog. Then you can go for another 20 minutes later on, or 2 10-minute workouts. It needs to be, you'll get lots of health benefits from walking, a ton of health benefits from walking. So if walking is the only thing that you're doing, that's actually fantastic. It doesn't have to be super hard. These guys look like they're having a heckle of a lot of fun. Wouldn't we want to be them on the beach somewhere in January? But they're enjoying it. So their endorphins are going up. They're giggling, they're laughing, but they're doing a million things here. They're engaging their core, they're working their hips, mobility, they're having a good time and laughing. And so the key to staying physically active is to do something that actually makes sense to you and that you can connect to. So whatever that is. And sometimes it's easier to do that in better weather, but right now, other than maybe it being slippery, and if it is slippery outside, then you want to use poles. You want to get active and stay active, but it has to bring you joy. So you're not going to stick with it if it doesn't bring you joy. And I think that's pretty much bringing them joy right there. So there's lots more information about that that you can get from the Reh-Fit and their trainers to get specifics for yourself. And we want to reduce stress. Now, stress is different for everybody. My stress might be different than your stress and everybody else's stress. And so we're looking at ways to reduce that and take a minute to realize what stresses me out and what am I doing about it. Laughter is one of the best medicines that's been around forever, but it does increase our endorphins and lower our bad hormones, our cortisol that stress us out and make us gain weight and things like that if it's there for a while. So it's not an easy thing to say, yeah, just don't be so stressed. You have to kind of figure out what stresses you out. And one of the best things to do is take a breath, just take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it for 4 seconds or 3 seconds, and then slowly exhale. That actually brings down our blood pressure, brings down our breathing and our heart rate. And that actually will tell your body, you know what, everything's okay. And it's as simple as taking in those deep breaths that make a big difference in breathing. Mindfulness is great. Mind-body connections are fantastic. And I think you guys have some information on that later on. Protecting your head. So not only protecting your head with a helmet, like for some, bicycling or whatever kind of activity that you're doing requires helmet protection, but it's also about preventing falls. And so working to getting physically active, working on the muscles that help us balance and help us improve our balance is actually really good to protect our head. Because if we do fall, chances are we may hit our head on the way down or right down. And so you're wanting to increase your balance and your strength to prevent head injuries. You're also wanting to make sure that your surroundings are clear. So sometimes we'll put things on the stairs that are we mean to bring upstairs or whatever. And, you want to be careful that you don't have that. You want to be careful of tripping. If people's sights are starting to change, for sure, you want to make sure that your surroundings are clear and non-slip carpets and things out of the way, cords and things like that. So it seems like a no-brainer, but it needs to be, people forget about it. And once you do have, I know lots of people who do have past concussions and head injuries, and they do end up getting dementia. So choosing wisely, of course, with stopping to smoke, reducing your waistline and your weight, and limiting your alcohol and drugs, obviously, is something that you want to do. And then choosing wisely also with your numbers. So making those lifestyle changes. But if you do have those numbers, you want to be able to know what they are and then work towards lowering them. So you want to be tracking those and working closely with whatever you use to help monitor yourself with those changes. And really, guys, in a nutshell, what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So a lot of people work out because they want a healthy heart. Well, when you have a healthy heart, you can have your brain if you're doing something to gain a healthy heart, your brain is getting those benefits as well. And so really, it really just comes down to that. And it's not really rocket science, but it is about being proactive with our health and staying connected with our community and with our families and just society, staying active with our bodies and our minds, and staying engaged. And when we're engaged, we're just a little bit more aware, and we're taking it in deeper, and we're maybe learning something new and changing those pathways in our brain. And that's going to keep our brain is able to change. And that's a good thing. It does that all the time. So we want to be able to condition it and keep it moving and keep it active, with improving it by challenging it. Whoops. So just a little bit, we're just wrapping up here. I got a little bit of time here. The Alzheimer's Society has support groups for people with dementia, for caregivers. We have My Minds in Motion program. We have the alert. We have access to the alert safely at home. Family and professional education and public awareness. And then there's also research. So that's what the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba does for you. We're here to help with clients. A lot of our clients are actually caregivers. And so earlier I had said that for every person that has dementia, there's usually 2 caregivers. And so that affects a lot of people. And caregiving can be a wonderful experience, but also very challenging and tiresome and exhausting, but and can be taxing. So we always want to encourage everybody to stay as healthy as they can for themselves, so that they can help others. And you may or may not have seen the Alzheimer's Society throughout the news this month, and we actually are in our January is Awareness Month for Alzheimer's, and we have a campaign on I Live with Dementia and Tell Me More. So if you happen to get a diagnosis with dementia, or you know of somebody who does, you can always reach out to the Alzheimer's Society. But the thing about it is reducing the stigma. A lot of people, they'll get it and they just don't want to share the fact that they have dementia. And there's actually no shame in having dementia. It's just like any other disease, except that it affects the brain. And so in order for people to get help, you want to know that if you have that diagnosis, and then you can reach out to the Alzheimer's Society, and you know that you'll learn that people live quite well with dementia. It can be challenging, but for a certain amount of years, you can still live well. So you don't lose your life right away. There's people that still drive that have dementia. There's people, that gentleman there with the bike helmet, he has dementia, and he still rides his bike everywhere he goes throughout the city and to his programmings. So he's a bit of an inspiration for sure. And you know what? That is it. That's our contact information. Alzheimer's.mb.ca is our website. So we have lots of more information on our website. I just will look at anything else that you guys wanted to. I don't know if you have any questions, you can actually put it in the chat. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
So again, like Kathy said, and I said at the beginning, again, the chat box is great for questions. We'll give it a few minutes. But I think, Kathy, you covered lots of really helpful information. Lots of great information about just getting rid of that stigma, really, when someone says they have that diagnosis. And like Kathy mentioned, our next presentation on Thursday is about mindful meditation. So a great complement to what we learned tonight. So everything kind of connects, right? It's not just being active. It's about looking after our nutrition, looking after our brains and our brain games. I always thought that was a great component of the Minds in Motion program. So if anybody has a question, you can put it in the box below. And then otherwise we can wrap up the meeting. So give everybody a little bit of time. But I want to thank everybody for joining us, and hopefully we'll all tune in on Thursday for the next talk at 7. No one's asking. You covered everything. You did such a great job, Kathy. That's a good sign, I think, when there's not you're not flooded with questions. It means you covered everything. Give it
I'm happy to stick around if something else, if you wanted to see a slide again, or, oh, there's one. Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
So it's nice to see everybody's faces.
Oh, Wayne, you look like you want to say something there.
Yeah, he's typing something. I'll just highlight tomorrow that Kathy talked about the importance of social interaction. So it's really hard now, right? Because we can't see each other when we come to the gym. But tomorrow we have coffee time with Laura. So you can always tune into that. It's on the Reh-Fit Anywhere site. You can click and join that link. And at 10:30 tomorrow, you can do coffee time with Laura, one of our fitness professionals. So there was a couple questions, so they popped up and then they went away. What % of professional football players end up with dementia, Kathy? Do you know?
Oh, well, I don't know if I have that stat handy, but it definitely does happen a lot because when you do get damage to the brain, now that damage is there, and that damage can just worsen dementia. And it might not happen right away, but it happens later in life. So that risk factor of brain damage increases to get dementia the older that you get, right? Because that brain damage is there, those brain cells have been damaged and then eventually die off. So then that's going to affect. And it's completely different for everybody because it could be in all different parts of the brain.
Right. And I'd probably open it up, not just football, but any contact sport, right?
Yeah.
Any athlete. So boxing.
Although football seems to be a big one. Yeah. Yeah.
I would think boxing would have pretty high numbers too.
Well, yeah, that too. But less people box.
Yeah. That was a great question though. Thanks, Jan.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions that they wanted to ask? No? Okay, I see some head shaking, some waves. So thanks everybody for joining in. It's always nice to see everybody's face. So thanks to you that put your cameras on. And have a great night. And again, thanks, Kathy. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Okay.
Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.